Discovering the secrets behind the Tower of Babel. Hello, my name is Dora Alvarez, and today I'm going to talk about the language as a system.
One day, someone had an idea. Let's build a tower that will reach to heaven.
The traditional way of comparing languages was to compare the history and grammar structures of the languages in question. Greenberg came up with a new method. He collected lists of words from many African languages and compared them with each other. He noticed clear patterns. Several languages had similar sounding words for similar things.
Hey, hand me another brick. Qual é? Hã? O que é que você está dizendo? What's gotten into you? What are you talking about? Besteira, rapaz. Tá na hora de trabalhar. What are you saying?
But before, what is a language? The possession of language is perhaps the attribute that distinguishes humans from other animals. To understand our humanity, one must understand the nature of language that makes us human. Language represents power, possibility to do, to create, to communicate. Language is a conventional system formed by the sounds, structures, meanings, words, and rules for putting them all together. Sounds are the main components of language as a system. There are 6 properties of human language. First one is displacement. It is helpful to speak in different timeline, so humans can speak about past and future time and to other locations. Second, language is an arbitrary system. It means that is not a natural connection between a linguistic form and its meaning. Productivity is another feature about language. It is a feature of all language that novel utterances are continually being created. It is an aspect of language which is linked to the fact that the potential number of utterances in any human language is infinite. Cultural transmission is an interesting feature of language because you acquire a language in a culture with other speakers. Discreteness is the sounds that are used in language with a meaningful distinct. Each sound in the language is treated as discrete. Duality refers to a double articulation in terms of speech production. We have the physical level at which we can produce individual sounds, but we have another way to articulation using combinations of sounds, and we have another level because these combinations represents meanings. The child has the ability to discover the regularities of language that allows them to acquire this code. The principles that determines the class of human languages that can be acquired unconsciously without instruction in the early years of life has been referred to as universal grammar. This universal grammar underlies the specific grammars of all languages, in this case English. A language, then, consists of all the sounds, words, and possible sentences. When you know a language, you know the sounds, the words, the rules, and their combination. That's why language is a system. The act of producing speech implies to organize our thoughts into strings of words. Knowing a language means knowing what sounds are in the language and what sounds are not. This unconscious knowledge is revealed by the way speakers of one language pronounce words from another language. Phonetics is the production and perception of speech sounds in any language, and it deals with phone. On the other hand, phonology is the interpretation of speech sounds in a particular language, and it deals with phoneme, the smallest unit of sound. The voice production implies the power source, in this case the lungs, the vibrator, the voice box, and the resonator, using your throat, the nose, the mouth, etc. Human speech begins with the vocal cords. Air forced up by the lungs passes over the cords, causing them to vibrate at certain frequencies, depending on the force of the air and the position of the vocal cords. Human vocal sounds are generated by the relevant operations of vocal organs. Only humans are able to use words as the primary media in the verbal communication. In this case, we can identify a voiced sound that comes from the throat and unvoiced sounds that are made by air coming from the mouth. All the vowels and diphthongs are voiced sounds. Now, phonology is essentially the description of the system and patterns of speech sounds in a language. Considered from this point of view, we can see that phonology is concerned with the abstract set of sounds in a language which allow us to distinguish meaning in the actual physical sounds we say and hear. Each one of these meaning-distinguishing sounds in a language is described as a phoneme. When we considered previously the different sound types in relation to their place and manner of articulation, we were actually working with the concept of the phoneme as a single sound type which can be represented by a single symbol. The International Phonetical Alphabet is an academic standard created by the International Phonetic Association. IPA is a phonetic notation system that uses a set of symbols to represent each distinct sound that exists in human spoken language. The system was created in 1886 and was last updated in 2005. It consists of 107 letters and 52 diacritics and 4 prosodic marks. The IPA is based on the Latin alphabet, but includes some non-Latin characters as well.
I could stay awake just to hear you breathing, watch you smile while you are sleeping, while you're far away and dreaming. I could spend my life in this sweet surrender.
Now, morphology is an important part to understand language as a system. Morphology is the study of form or forms. It refers to the mental system involved in word formation or to the branch of linguistics that deals with words, their internal structure, and how they are formed. The word is the minimal free form in isolated state. Words function as units. A morpheme is the smallest minimal part of a word. Then a word could be the same as a morpheme. Morpheme is the smallest linguistic piece with a grammatical function. There are two main word formation processes: prefixes and suffixes. When we are using prefixes, we put a part of a word before the root or stem, and this part alters the word class. For example, unhappy. In the case of suffixes, we put a part after the root or stem. For example, happiness. There are another kind of word formation processes: affixation, derivation, compounding, head and modifiers, other word conversions as clipping, blending, acronyms, back formation, and additional formations as coinage, borrowing, and inflections. Now, speaking about syntax, basically we are speaking about the structure of sentences. Sentences have to follow certain structural rules in order to make sense. Syntax refers to the relation between signs. The composition is the combination of words considering a structure. The way to put together different signs, in this case words, determines the meaning. Sentences are made up of smaller phrases. There are three main types of phrases that can be used in a sentence. We have noun phrases, verbal phrases, and prepositional phrases. In a phrase, we must have a word which is called the head. This is the core of the phrase, what the phrase can exist without. And we have the modifiers. They modify the head and give it a specific meaning. Now remember universal grammar. This is a theory that says that any kind of sentences, a simple, a complex, or a compound, is formed considering some patterns. In English, the parameters are contained in the universal grammar, and grammar explains the part of the speech. We have three types of sentences: simple, compound, and complex. The descriptive analysis implies to recognize the phrases, to identify constituents, and to identify the head. Analytical syntax implies to develop this analysis from bottom to the top, identifying the components, the relation between components of a phrase, the kind of phrases formed, and to establish links between phrases to determine if exists a sentence or not. To conclude, we can say that language is a system composed for units, structures and rules that functions by convention between individuals that understand and share it. Language is dynamic. It allows to produce new words and adapt others from a different code. The existence of different languages represents richness instead of tragedy, that the case of the Tower of Babel, because languages help people to express the ways that think and feel. Culture is intrinsically linked to languages. Then, when we learn a language, we learn about the way of a society sees the world. Thank you.
Estos son Rebel o son Nike, son Nike, son.
Alright, I think we're gonna make it. Hurrah para Mexican son, hurrah para Mexican son, hurrah para Mexican son, hurrah para Mexican.